What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today I decided to film from home because it's raining outside. I have the house to myself and I felt like it, so hope you don't mind. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about why therapists are so isolated and some of my, unfiltered thoughts about that as a systemic issue. I've definitely spoken about this before, but I've tended to take a more like, here's some quick tips to help you make some friends kind of approach, which, has value. But I think there's some deeper components to this issue of why we're so isolated. And I thought I would speak to that a little bit more today and also offer some of my thoughts about what kind of changes are necessary in order to make our profession less isolating. So I think one of the most apparent reasons why therapists can become so isolated is because of therapist-client confidentiality. Confidentiality is so necessary for the safety of the therapeutic relationship, so please don't hear that as me questioning the need for confidentiality. But because we have to keep everything confidential about the work that we do with our clients, even information about who we're seeing, let alone what we're talking about in session, it can become isolating because we have so much private information just stored inside of us that no one else will ever hear from us. We'll never get to air it out anywhere. And piggybacking off of that a little bit, even in a context where there's freedom to disclose fully, let's say you're on a treatment team and several different therapists are supporting the care for one client, there can be this air of kind of competition amongst professionals in the field. Of course, this isn't a universal thing that happens anywhere where you're consulting with other folks or collaborating on the care for the same clients, but I've definitely seen it happen. When I've seen it, it tends to be kind of subtle. So it's not like, I'm doing a better job at helping my client than you are. I know more stuff than you do. But it comes out in these more kind of subtle ways. Like, oh, you didn't know that for the differential diagnosis of such and such, you're supposed to do this? Oh, I thought everyone knew that. Or kind of making just sort of I know better than other therapists type statements without saying,
I know better than other therapists.
And when we see other therapists have this competitive air about them, it naturally pulls for us to feel like we need to bring our own kind of competitive air as well, because I guess we're supposed to know what we're doing, so let me show that I know what I'm doing. Or it can cause us to withdraw. And another pretty obvious reason why therapists can be so isolated is because for so many of us, like myself, we have no coworkers. If I wanted to, I could interact with 0 other therapists in my professional life. I definitely choose a different path than that one, but it's very possible to have a busy caseload and never interact with another therapist. Another variable that can make our profession feel quite isolating is that, at least for most of us, we spend the majority of our workplace talking to people about their problems. Not only on the surface is it kind of a downer, you spend your day hearing about problems, but we are hearing about people's deep traumas, oftentimes things that they've never told anybody else. If we're not intentional or if we don't have it built into our existing structure, we can start to go into the spiral of the world is full of a lot of bad things and there isn't a counter sense of hope or that there's good things happening. Most of us either burn out if we're weighed down by that perspective, or we start to wall up our emotions in order to protect ourselves. And it can make us start to become more and more disconnected from ourselves. And then as a byproduct of that, more and more disconnected from other people, not just our clients, but all people. Now, all of this in and of itself is plenty to make a therapist feel quite isolated, but I think there is still more to the story than just this. I think overall, across our field as a whole, there are some cultural values that are quite isolating in nature. At least back when I was in graduate school, the message that I received, both subliminally and explicitly, is that we're supposed to get our stuff together, and then from that space, we can help people. Now, at first glance, this sounds like a good value to have, because seemingly the opposite of that would be to not be self-aware at all, think that whatever my state is not going to impact my clients at all. I just need to deliver whatever tools to them and they can improve regardless of what I have going on in my own life. And we know that that's not true as well. We need to value our own growth if we are expecting to encourage our clients to value their own growth. But it got skewed in the messaging, at least that I received, that somehow we need to have it all together, check that box, and then we're now equipped to help people. And I think that's incredibly dangerous. And another point I'd like to make as far as kind of systemic issues within our profession, making it more isolating, is our stated value is vulnerability. Saying, I need help, or I don't know what I'm doing, or this is really difficult for me because it reminds me of some other challenge that I've been through personally. We're encouraged to do those things on paper, but then in practice, vulnerability can often be mislabeled as being incapable. So if, let's say, I'm in a situation where I'm working with a new client and they're presenting with something that I haven't really worked with that much before, or maybe whatever they're coming in with is something that reminds me of something from my past that was really difficult for me. We might say, oh, this is a good opportunity to be vulnerable. Go share with your consult group or share with a fellow therapist to invite their support and feedback. But in these moments, when we do this, often it can be perceived as not being capable. Oh, you're not equipped. You should know how to deal with that. You should have already figured that out. And I think that kind of piggybacks off the point that I just said, where we're supposed to kind of like have all our stuff together and then we can help people. And again, it's not how things work. Now, I can think of other things that are likely strong contributors to how isolating our profession can be. I mean, I haven't even touched on how incredibly overworked most therapists are, to burnout levels, for poor pay. How do you even find time if you're overworked to go seek support? So I think there are plenty of variables across the board contributing to why our profession can be so isolating, many of which I haven't even touched on today. What I do want to emphasize in this episode, though, is that if we want to decrease therapist isolation, and while we're at it, if we want to improve client care, if we want more therapists to enter the profession, because we know we don't have enough therapists right now, then we need some pretty radical change in our cultural values as a field. So another way of phrasing it is, culturally, we should hold ourselves as a profession to the same standards that we ask our clients to hold themselves to. Be human, acknowledge that you have needs, ask for help when you need it. So if we can embrace those values as a profession, not just on paper, but like across the board, and I think it starts from the top down, employers embracing this with their employees, professors embracing this with their students, graduate school administrators embracing this with their faculty. If we can embrace a culture and value of like, I'm going to be humble, I'm going to acknowledge my humanity, I'm going to name when I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to ask for help, then that's going to trickle down into the culture of the entire profession. I think we can embody this in our consult groups, we can embody this in how we speak to each other, even if you are a student or, somewhere earlier on in your career and you don't have some identified leadership role. Every moment that we interact with another therapist is an opportunity to write a new cultural value into our system. Am I being overly optimistic? Maybe. But if we can all embrace this, then maybe over time, our profession as a whole can be one where, as therapists, we value ourselves as a human. We see our clients as equals, we see our leaders as equals, and we can feel safe enough to share freely about what's going on, whatever it is, however messy it might be, and feel safe and supported and cared for, just like we try to do for our clients. And I think if we can shift our culture overall in that direction, the field would be a far less isolating field to be in. Okay, my battery's about to die, so it's time to close this video. Before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing, and they have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included for all users. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope you found this helpful, or at least supportive if you're feeling isolated. I see you. And hopefully we can make some changes culturally as a field to make this a less isolating profession. We can do this. I believe in us. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.